Welcome to Sovereign Temples, and we are diving into this next lunar cycle that goes from June 6th through July 4th. And at Sovereign Temples, we are dedicated to helping humanity return to its natural cycles and seasons. And I have found that if we can allow our consciousness to be tapped in to a lunar cycle versus just this constant fast pace week to week, Monday through Friday, but really understanding that we're more cyclical beings and slowing down some in this fast paced world, and then also operating within the seasons of our lives. And oftentimes it does mirror directly to Earth. As always, check in with your own intuition to see, how nature has taught you based on the personal season and cycle that you are germinating in, like a seed with infinite possibilities, and being a gardener. But I really just am on this mission to invite people to understand how much the moon influences us, and our bodies being salt water, and thinking about the tides and how much the moon works with the tides. So I'm just going to jump right into what's kind of going on this next cycle. I love to call it the imagination moon, to really allow my imagination to work with me. And first we have our dark moon in Gemini on the 6th, when the end and the beginning of a lunar cycle is taking place. And remembering that Gemini represents duality and adaptability. And right now we are really seeing so much duality as we are moving into higher octaves, into higher consciousness. And that's not a problem. And just remembering how much you can adapt, right? You are made of earth and the Great Spirit, which is ever changing, right, in terms of the form that it is creating and dissolving, and death and rebirth. And we have the ability in our lives to harness our communication and to really allow duality to serve us as we adapt. And then we, of course, have our summer solstice this cycle too. So the sun is actually shifting into Cancer, which is a major water sign, right? And just really highly intuitive and emotional. And so during this summer solstice, oh my gosh, please have a fire dance, gather in community with like-minded individuals who are ready to harness their solar center, their sun power, their inner central sun, to really co-create heaven on earth. It is safe to let good people into your awareness and into your life. So often people on a personal development journey, we step into isolation, and there are definitely times and seasons for that. But on such a magical event like summer solstice, I just really invite you to, gather with your friends and family and celebrate the sun, have a fire, dance, sing, celebrate, and allow yourself, if possible, to swim in water as well, and just embracing this idea of the water sign, very cool, right? Now water can also be what? Boiling, but this water sign and this fire sign, and really just embracing that as true alchemy happens when two polar opposites, like extreme heat, right? And then an extreme like cold temperature water, like that can create a substance to completely transform when they fuse together. And so embrace that, and don't miss out on gifting yourself that this lunar cycle. And then, of course, right after summer solstice, what do we have? A full moon in Capricorn, which is the goat. And you are the goat of your life. And embrace that, and, allow yourself to really understand too, this is just an invitation, as always, check in with your higher self, but it is time that we take confidence while also displaying humility in our gifts and talents, but not being afraid to allow ourselves to shine brightly as a goat does, right? Greatest of all time in this lifetime. But with maybe the shadow aspect of a Capricorn can be like rigid structure. And this is an invitation as well too, to be more flexible even in structure and allow that present moment, which is why I love lunar cycles, right? There's really not a lot of structure to a lunar cycle. It is constantly ebbing and flowing and moving, right? Like the tides. And so our solar seasons are much more steady, right? And they're pretty predictable. But that lunar that's constantly ebbing and flowing, inviting that into your structure as well, and maybe inviting your higher self to assist you if you find yourself getting stuck or procrastinating. Oftentimes it is the structure has become far too rigid based on what we think is right or wrong, or this is good or bad. Again, that whole dance of duality, but that can come into balance. And what I love about a lunar cycle too is, within each lunar cycle, we have that dark moon, we have the full moon, and then we have our quarter moons, which, yes, quarter is like being completely balanced at one time, but then you have dark, which you're completely dark and the pendulum's all the way to the dark. And then you have, the full moon where the pendulum is all the way to the light. And embracing that in our own lives to then there's something to be said about always being harmonized in our thoughts. So when we're in a, cycle of darkness, or we're in a cycle of really embracing our shadows, as our shadows can truly be our greatest transformers, our greatest expansion, our greatest blessings. It is only when the rigid beliefs then begin to terrorize us around there's something wrong with us for being in a dark cycle, right? And then that can spiral out of control, massively out of balance through our inner equilibrium. And so when we begin to work with the moon, and I have some pictures up here and this was really inspired by the 13 divine feminine archetypes, right? The feminine being represented by the moon, the masculine being represented by the sun, which we all have, feminine and masculine qualities within us. That merge to create our inner golden phoenix child, our Horus, in ancient Egyptian alchemy, that they call that union within, which is really what tantric is all about. But if you allow yourself to kind of say, okay, let me start really tapping into some of the archetypes that have really been stripped from our consciousness. If you think about all major religions too, right, the feminine aspect of the divine has also been stripped. In parts of the world, there is still where women are complete property. In some of the religions and cultures still to this day, they have to cover up and everything. And so it's like, the feminine has been suppressed, and it is awakening in the hearts of many. But the divine feminine is also not about banishing the masculine or labeling something that's a masculine quality as toxic, right? That's not what the divine feminine and these 13 archetypes. The divine feminine loves the divine masculine. Oh my gosh, the shadow loves the light. And it's embracing these divine feminine aspects within ourselves. And a lot of this was inspired from the 13 Moon Mystery School by Ariel Spilsbury. And oh my gosh, all of her content is incredible. But I started to realize that there's these archetypes within me, and I go through cycles. And if I also allow myself to really hibernate essentially in winter, versus, this idea that I have to have all these goals and it's New Year's, which really, if you follow more of the ancient civilization calendars, that is not when New Year's is, especially not for the Northern Hemisphere, January 1st, in terms of when our bodies are ready to be in massive action. And so, but if you take a look at this and begin to identify that you can gift yourself with going slower and through cycles, and allow the moon to help guide you and call upon your higher self to initiate you into cyclical living. You can also call upon ascended masters to assist you as well. But, just using a synodic lunar calendar like this, it's also completely honoring the seasons and sun as well too, can really begin to assist you in having more of that balance in your life. And, there's also Father's Day is this cycle. So in our consciousness, like, how can I be a father to myself? How can I, also too, like, it's like, how can I parent myself? How can I come into balance with offering myself those masculine qualities of a father, protector, provider, in terms of protecting myself, not necessarily from externals, but from viral programming or from running viral programming, and remembering that I'm always safe, right? And so providing for myself, like, how can I provide for myself? Well, I can go inward. I can go into meditation. I can nourish myself. I can do all of those things. It's like just, using this Father's Day as a reminder that during this cycle, that is something that we can work with as well too. And then another holiday, now federal holiday in the United States, is Juneteenth. And this holiday actually has a lot of duality. Maybe you're someone who feels that it is separating us more in the United States, or maybe you're someone who feels like it's about time that this is the day that's honored for us being liberated as, slavery here in the United States. And in the United States, and all over the world, there has been systems of oppression and then times of liberation as well. But the biggest liberation can come in our consciousness, and check in if this is true for you, with whether or not we get triggered, whether or not someone wants to celebrate Juneteenth or not celebrate it, or think that it is unifying or think that it's dividing. It is when we allow our consciousness to be freed and liberated from identifying one as good or bad, or judging somebody for why they align with one side or the other. It's not about that. It's about us being liberated internally, right? Because also there's Independence Day is this cycle, is a federal holiday for the United States. And so in thinking in terms of mass consciousness, like liberation and freedom and sovereignty is represented by Independence Day, right? And then a lot of people consider Juneteenth to be their liberation day, right? African Americans in the United States. And so, really allowing yourself to take what the symbol of these days are and integrating that in our own consciousness through an entire lunar cycle, where we just set the intention, like, higher self, illuminate to me some of these things that are happening in mass consciousness, and anything that my own intuition is guiding me to work throughout this lunar cycle. So it's a great to sit with your higher self on a dark moon and go into meditation the first couple days of a new moon cycle and get clear on what your intentions are. And it's a beautiful thing to look at an entire collective consciousness of things that happen based on the area that you're in, because we're all part of the oneness and the collective consciousness, and then seeing how what's going on collectively in mass consciousness is also operating within you in any areas that may need purifying from judgment, or from holding yourself captive, or from enslaving yourself through dualistic thinking. And, a lunar synodic cycle calendar is also not to say, well, you can't ever work with initiation if you're in a seeding intention cycle. It's like the first and foremost of understanding your personal patterns and your personal cycles. But you can always call upon your intuition. Again, remember, flexibility. I had this really stiff neck not that long ago, and I was shown that I was getting too rigid in my being flexible. I became too rigid with trying to be flexible. The irony, the duality, and thinking about that, like, so I don't want to say be careful, be aware, and as always, consult with your higher self, but just be aware if, even with letting go of duality, if we're actually becoming too dualistic in the need to let go of duality, right? And such an oxymoron, but you'll play with it. The more that you work with cycles and the more that you allow yourself time to set intention, but allow a whole full cycle to go through versus this, Monday through Friday or week to week, or it's Monday, so I should be doing this. And just let a lunar cycle trigger your consciousness to work within, to go to the shadow spaces, then to also go to the light spaces. If you're in the northern hemisphere right now for summer solstice, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's actually going to be winter solstice, right, on the 20th for us in the northern hemisphere in the States. So it's just giving yourself permission to use your intuition, and then allowing yourself to work with different archetypes that could serve you. And the moon has been one of my greatest teachers because she triggers me to go inward and to work with a growing cycle or a fading ending cycle within my own life, as she so beautifully demonstrates, as she harnesses the light from the masculine, right? As she harnesses that energy, that more constant, steady flow, that stream of light, that action, that go, that do, that society has programmed us that we should always be in Monday through Friday, regardless if it's winter or summer or spring, or if we're moving through something in our own life, or for women's menstrual cycle. It's just insane. But that's the duality. So it's like, okay, let me use that for a lesson. And then you start to see what the contrast, the difference in your life, the ease, the grace, the flow, the more bliss when it's not a rigid structure that we're following and just constantly go, 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 but we embrace the darkness, we embrace a longer cycle. And you start to realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing less, but getting more done. How is this happening? Nature. I keep a rock on my desk and it says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And that's from Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. And, the great mother, the water, the great mystery, it's time to welcome her back into your life, and to also honor the masculine, the light, cycles of light and dark. Something also very symbolic happening is the Syrian stargate portal opens on July 4th, right? Which is, again, that representation of freedom, of sovereignty. And so really allowing that system to support us as well. And we'll definitely have a direct communion that I'll put out for those that really want to journey with their Syrian star family. That star is like 23 times brighter, I believe, than our sun. So you talk about some bright light if you want to journey with just an incredible time. So that is what we have looking forward to this next lunar cycle. Obviously, there's tons of other, astrology goodness going on with a bunch of planets, and I do look forward to having my main man, Brian, coming back on the channel and discussing more of the planetary astrology. But I'm someone who's just gotten really grounded in what's the moon and earth and the sun. Let me Let me simplify it for myself for that, and the inner solar system for myself. So my inner moon and my inner sun, which there's actual pathways. That's really fascinating too. That's for a whole other conversation of the lunar and solar pathways and those meditations within, and the elixir and the alchemy that can happen when you allow those pathways to emit elixir through an inner communion. So it's so cool. The sun and the moon are so cool. And if we will allow ourselves to learn from them versus living on an artificial Catholic Pope Gregorian calendar, I believe that we can greatly assist ourselves. But you're the one that has to put it to the test so that you can see the contrast and the bliss for yourself. So I look forward to offering meditations that I'm now calling explorations around all of these beautiful symbolisms that are happening throughout this cycle in this summer solstice season. And I want to thank you all for offering me your gift of your focused attention. And I'll see you on the next discussion and cycle. All my love and light. Namaste.